Hamilton's Ferrari win should have ended the debate. Instead, it started a war. Mercedes had pole position. Mercedes had the championship leader. Mercedes had control, until Ferrari's strategy landed at the perfect second and Hamilton turned one virtual safety car into a race-winning weapon. Then the rumor exploded. Mercedes had hidden data. Ferrari's 8-piece upgrade was under suspicion. Hamilton's Spanish Grand Prix victory could be investigated. But here is the twist. The source does not confirm Ferrari cheated. It confirms something much more dangerous for Mercedes. Because while everyone is asking what Mercedes found on Ferrari, the real pressure is already surrounding Mercedes' own car, their front wing, and the questions Ferrari pushed toward the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile before this win ever happened. So if Hamilton's victory is not the scandal, then what did Barcelona really expose? Subscribe to the channel. To understand why that hook matters, you have to begin with one uncomfortable fact. Barcelona did not only give Ferrari a victory. It gave Ferrari credibility. Before this race, Mercedes still had the power of the season behind them. They had the car everyone feared. They had George Russell on pole position. They had Kimi Antonelli leading the championship. They had the rhythm of a team that looked calm, organized, and dangerously difficult to beat. Ferrari had something very different. Pressure. Hamilton had arrived in red carrying the kind of expectation that can crush a driver before the car even leaves the garage. Every fan wanted the dream to work. Every rival wanted it to fail. Every race without a win made the same question louder. Was Hamilton's move to Ferrari a masterstroke or a beautiful mistake? That is why the Spanish Grand Prix mattered so much. Ferrari did not just need a good result. They needed proof. Proof that the car could beat Mercedes. Proof that Hamilton could win in red. Proof that the strategy team could make a brave call and survive the pressure. Proof that this was not just a romantic story from the past, but a real threat in the present. And that is why Mercedes' position before the race was so important. Russell started from pole. That gave Mercedes the cleanest route to control. Antonelli was close enough to protect the championship. The team had every reason to believe that if the race stayed normal, Ferrari would have to chase them on Mercedes' terms. But Ferrari did not want a normal race. Ferrari needed a race with a crack in it. A moment where the obvious plan stopped being enough. A moment where Hamilton's experience could turn risk into damage. That is why the soft tire start mattered. Soft tires are fast, but they are not forgiving. They give grip early, then start asking questions. If a driver pushes too hard, they fade. If a team misjudges the timing, the entire plan falls apart. Mercedes could look at that choice and think Ferrari was gambling because it had no safer option. But Ferrari's gamble had purpose. They were not trying to run the same race as Mercedes. They were trying to create a race where Mercedes could be pulled away from comfort. A race where timing could beat track position. A race where one sudden opportunity could turn everything upside down. Hamilton had to keep the plan alive. That sounds simple, but it is not. He had to stay close enough to make Ferrari's strategy dangerous, but calm enough not to destroy the tires before the right moment arrived. He had to manage the car while the pressure of the entire Ferrari project sat on his shoulders. He had to trust a pit wall that was still building its relationship with him. That trust became the hidden foundation of the win. Because when the virtual safety car came out, Ferrari did not hesitate. Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin had stopped on track. The field slowed. The timing window opened. And suddenly, the pit lane became much less expensive than it would normally be. For a casual fan, that may sound like a small detail. It is not. Imagine a busy road where every car is moving fast. If you pull into a side street, you lose a lot of ground. But if everyone on the road is suddenly forced to slow down, pulling away for a moment costs much less. That is what Ferrari saw. Hamilton came in. Fresh tires went on. The race changed in seconds. And this is the moment that made the rumor feel so powerful. Because Ferrari's decision was not just good. It was perfectly timed. It hit Mercedes exactly where they were vulnerable. It took away the comfort of Russell's pole position. It turned Hamilton's soft tire gamble into a race-winning weapon. It made Mercedes look like they had been caught one move behind. When something lands that perfectly, people search for a hidden explanation. That is why the story about Mercedes finding hidden data on Ferrari's 8-piece upgrade spread so easily. It gave people a reason to believe the win was not just strategy. It made the victory sound like a technical mystery. It suggested Ferrari had gained something secret, something Mercedes had uncovered, something serious enough to bring the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile into the fight. But the source does not confirm that. And that is the crucial difference. The source does not confirm that Mercedes found hidden data proving Ferrari's upgrade was illegal. It does not confirm that Hamilton's win is under a real penalty threat. It does not confirm that Ferrari's strategy broke the rules. What it does show is that Ferrari's win hurt Mercedes in a way that needed explaining. And sometimes, in Formula One, the need for an explanation becomes louder than the evidence itself. Because Mercedes did not lose from the back. They lost from strength. They had the pole sitter. They had the championship leader. They had the team structure. They had the expectation. Then Ferrari used one perfectly timed moment to flip the race, and Hamilton did the rest. That kind of defeat creates tension because it cannot be dismissed as simple bad luck. Yes, the virtual safety car helped Ferrari. But Ferrari had to be ready for it. Yes, Hamilton gained from timing. But he had to turn that timing into pace. Yes, Mercedes suffered a brutal blow when Antonelli retired on lap 62. But Russell had already lost the race-winning momentum. That is why Barcelona became so dangerous for the championship. It connected strategy, emotion, reliability, and politics in one afternoon. Hamilton's win cut Antonelli's championship lead. Ferrari's confidence grew. Mercedes' control looked weaker. And behind all of it, the real technical dispute around Mercedes was still alive. That is where the story begins to turn. Because while the public rumor points toward Ferrari's supposed upgrade, the verified background points toward Mercedes' car. Ferrari had already questioned Mercedes' front wing interpretation earlier in the season. They had pushed for clarification from the governing body, asking where the legal line truly sat under the new aerodynamic rules. That matters because a clarification request is not just paperwork. It is pressure. It tells the governing body to look closer. It tells the rival team that its advantage is being watched. It tells the rest of the paddock that something may be sitting near the edge of the regulations. And once Ferrari won in Barcelona, that pressure became much stronger. Before winning, Ferrari's questions could be framed as frustration from a team trying to catch up. After winning, those same questions sounded different. Ferrari could now say, "We can beat Mercedes on track, and we still want answers about how their car works." That is why Hamilton's victory changed the balance. It gave Ferrari more than points. It gave them leverage. And leverage is one of the most dangerous things in Formula One. Because a team with leverage does not need to shout. It only needs to keep asking the right questions at the right time. Mercedes now had two problems. The first was sporting. Hamilton had won. Antonelli had retired. Russell had lost from pole. The championship gap had shrunk, and Ferrari suddenly felt alive. The second was political. Ferrari's technical concerns about Mercedes had more weight because Ferrari was no longer just chasing from weakness. They were challenging from strength. That is why the hidden data angle is so important to handle carefully. If Mercedes had real evidence against Ferrari's upgrade, that would be a massive story. But the source does not verify that. So the stronger story is not that Ferrari has already been caught. The stronger story is that the rumor itself reveals how tense Mercedes has become. Because when a team that looked dominant suddenly loses, every detail becomes suspicious. The upgrade becomes suspicious. The timing becomes suspicious. The tire pace becomes suspicious. The pit stop becomes suspicious. But suspicion is not proof. And that distinction is where the whole block rests. Ferrari's Barcelona win is powerful because, based on the source, it does not need an illegal explanation. It can be explained by a brave tire choice, a perfectly timed virtual safety car stop, Hamilton's execution, and Mercedes suffering the worst possible championship swing when Antonelli retired. That is painful enough. And for Mercedes, it may be more frightening than a scandal. Because a scandal can be fought. A rival gaining real performance cannot be ignored. If Ferrari can repeat this, then Mercedes has a championship problem. If Hamilton can keep driving like this, Antonelli's lead is no longer comfortable. If the governing body continues to examine Mercedes' technical interpretations, then the pressure does not leave the garage. And if every future Ferrari upgrade becomes part of the conversation, then the battle is no longer only on the track. It is in the data. It is in the regulations. It is in the meetings. It is in the way every team watches every part of every car. That is Formula One at its most ruthless. One race win becomes a question. One question becomes pressure. One pressure point becomes a championship fight. And Barcelona may have been the first race where Mercedes realized Ferrari was no longer just hoping. Ferrari was coming. Then came the part of the story that turned pressure into suspicion. Because after a race like Barcelona, nobody in Formula One accepts the first explanation. The simple explanation was that Ferrari made the right call under the virtual safety car, Hamilton executed it perfectly, and Mercedes lost a race it expected to control. But simple explanations rarely survive in a paddock full of engineers. Mercedes would not only ask why it lost. Mercedes would ask where the difference came from. Was it the tire choice? Was it Hamilton's management? Was it Ferrari's pace after the stop? Was it the timing of the virtual safety car? Was it the car itself? And that is where the upgrade rumor becomes dangerous. Because the claim was not just that Ferrari won through strategy. The claim was that Mercedes had found hidden data connected to Ferrari's 8-piece upgrade, and that this information had been taken toward the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. That is the kind of claim that changes the feeling of a race. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer only about whether Ferrari was smarter. It becomes about whether Ferrari had brought something Mercedes believed needed to be examined. But the source does not confirm that as fact. And that is important. There is no verified evidence in the source that Mercedes found hidden data proving Ferrari's upgrade was illegal. There is no confirmed official challenge showing Hamilton's win was under threat because of those parts. There is no confirmed ruling that Ferrari's car crossed the line in Barcelona. So the story has to be handled carefully. But carefully does not mean weakly. Because even an unconfirmed claim can reveal a real fear. And the fear was obvious. Mercedes had been beaten by a Ferrari that suddenly looked alive. That is what every rival team wants to understand. When a car changes performance, the entire paddock looks for the reason. Sometimes it is a new floor. Sometimes it is a wing adjustment. Sometimes it is cooling. Sometimes it is tire understanding. Sometimes it is not one thing at all, but several small details finally working together. That is why the phrase 8-piece upgrade sounds so powerful. It suggests a package. Not one part. Not one tiny change. A package. And in Formula 1, a package can transform a car if the pieces work together. A new part alone can be modest. But a set of parts that support each other can change the way the car behaves from corner entry to corner exit. Think of it like a musical band. One new instrument can change the sound a little. But if the drums, the bass, the guitar, and the singer all start working better together, the whole song feels different. That is what a successful upgrade package can do. It can make the driver trust the front end more. It can reduce sliding. It can help the tires live longer. It can give the team more confidence to choose an aggressive strategy. And that last part matters. Because Ferrari's strategy only works if the car and driver can finish the job. A virtual safety car can give you a cheaper pit stop. It cannot drive the laps after it. It cannot protect the tires. It cannot build a gap. It cannot turn opportunity into victory. Hamilton had to do that. And the Ferrari had to respond. That is why Mercedes would study the post-stop pace so intensely. If Hamilton's lap time suddenly looked too strong, the question inside Mercedes would not only be, how did we miss the strategy? It would also be, how did Ferrari have that much performance when it mattered? That is where data becomes the language of suspicion. Data can show whether a rival gained speed in specific corners. It can show whether tire degradation improved. It can show whether straight-line speed changed. It can show whether a car became more stable under braking. It can show patterns that the naked eye misses. But data also needs interpretation. One team can look at a number and see suspicion. Another can look at the same number and see a better setup, a better tire window, or a driver in perfect rhythm. That is why hidden data claims are so explosive. They sound like proof before anyone has explained what they actually prove. And in this case, the source does not give us verified proof. So the smarter question is not whether the hidden data story has already exposed Ferrari. The smarter question is why Mercedes would be worried enough for people to believe it. The answer is that Barcelona damaged Mercedes on multiple levels. First, it damaged the race result. Russell started from pole position, but Hamilton won. Second, it damaged the championship. Antonelli retired on lap 62, and Hamilton cut the gap by a massive amount in one afternoon. Third, it damaged the psychological balance. Hamilton did not look like a fading legend chasing one last dream. He looked like a real threat in a Ferrari. And fourth, it damaged the political balance. Because Ferrari had already been asking questions about Mercedes before this race. That fourth point is the one that makes the whole story turn. If Mercedes really wanted to pressure Ferrari after Barcelona, it would not happen in an empty room. It would happen while Ferrari was already applying pressure the other way. Earlier in the season, Ferrari had questioned Mercedes' front wing interpretation. The concern was about whether Mercedes had found a clever way to use the new aerodynamic rules to gain an advantage. This was not the same as the supposed Ferrari upgrade controversy. It was a separate, real tension. And that matters because it means Barcelona was not just Ferrari winning and Mercedes reacting. It was one chapter in a larger Mercedes-Ferrari war. A war of performance. A war of strategy. A war of interpretation. A war where both teams understand that the fastest car is not always the one that wins the championship. Sometimes the winning car is the one that stays legal, adaptable, reliable, and politically protected when everyone starts looking closer. That is why Ferrari's position after Barcelona became stronger. They could celebrate Hamilton's win, but they could also keep pressure on Mercedes. They could say, "We are not just complaining from behind. We are competing. We are winning. And we still want clarity."